Ladies and gentlemen, in this RedGamingTech.com video, we're going to be discussing Nvidia and AMD and the next generation of consoles. That would be the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Nvidia have categorically said that they were not that interested in putting together something which really worked for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, because the profits were basically too low. In other words, they would do all the work and they wouldn't reap enough money. And AMD have said that this is not the case, and that effectively, and I quote, they have sour grapes over it. AMD, just for those one or two people in the whole world that don't know, of course are responsible for manufacturing the APUs which are fitting in both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And so you can really say that they've got a massive hand in the next generation of consoles, and they've got a pretty damn good contract in that. AMD have recently stated, and I quote, "The position seems to be a bit like sour grapes to me. The reality, according to industry legends like John Carmack, is that the standardization of console hardware will, in his words, make it cheaper and easier to develop games for multiple platforms, and that will improve the quality of games as devs spend less time polishing them, rather than juggling architectural particulars. We are very proud to help enable this sort of ecosystem for games developers, and excited with such an ecosystem runs almost unilaterally on our hardware. I can't imagine why anyone would willingly cede such a favourable situation." End quote. I seem to be having one of those days. It's difficult for me to speak English language, but regardless. So, what are my thoughts on this? Well, I think it's kind of a mixture of different things. I think that, as we've discussed today, I released another video today, AMD basically had the product offering that both Sony and Microsoft were really pushing for with the APU design, and I think it's kind of a combination of different things. Nvidia have their own sights and their own goals, and maybe in retrospect for them 3 years down the line, it would have been a massive mistake for them not to have really pushed for a certain contract, but maybe they just didn't really have the hardware, and it's likely they just didn't have the hardware that was really to the standard, or should I say that would fit in the standards that Sony and Microsoft wanted, because obviously they really wanted a system on a chip, and Sony's hardware, AMD's hardware with the Jaguars was pretty much perfect, to be honest with you. So I don't necessarily know what to make of it. It's obvious that there obviously is finances involved here, and no doubt that there was a lot of discussion at Nvidia of whether they wanted to really push for the consoles or not. AMD are right, however, that John Carmack has said that, look, one of the focuses now is we need to start driving down the costs of games development. Let's face it, a game currently costs like 100 million plus to produce in certain cases. I mean, we're talking AAA titles here, not, bedroom programmer type of titles. No offense to any indies who are watching, but I'm just saying, 100 million is not a small chunk of change, and those costs are going to keep going up and up and up and up unless something is done about it. And one of the best ways to do that is to start amalgamating their platforms as much as possible, and then just simply change the code as necessary, rather than basically having to reinvent the entire wheel. And this is one of the problems that PC development has seen. They've seen, okay, well, you've got two platforms here that, both using basically PowerPC, and that's another reason that even the PS3 versions of a title, the Xbox versions of the title would sometimes be inferior. We're talking largely inferior, and that's simply because it was developed on one platform in mind, and then they were trying to port the code over the best it could. It just didn't really go well a lot of the time. That's not to say that it was always really noticeable. I mean, obviously sometimes it was to do with the actual architectures, the differences inside the machine, but still, it really wasn't a good position for games manufacturers to be in, and they had to basically decide, well, what's going to be the leading platform now, because it's x86/64 architecture, the traditional architecture. It can be a lot more, it's going to be a lot easier basically for them to be able to produce titles for it. Anyway, I'm not quite sure what we're going to be making of this. No doubt Nvidia are going to either be happy about the decision, or I suppose it depends what their own contracts they get with the Tegra, for example, and so on. Anyway, that's been a fairly short video, but hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.